1.5 lakhs a month can go really, really far in tier two city. In a city like Delhi or in Mumbai, maybe you can increase that to 2.5 lakhs for the luxuries that we're used to having. 27% of one particular builder's business comes from NRIs, and that's just one builder. I've seen so many people, at least even in my own family in Canada, that they always say that conversation around the table always, every time we met, यार इंडिया जाना चाहिए, we want to go to India, हमें इंडिया जाना चाहिए, इंडिया में ये हो रहा है, इंडिया में वो हो रहा है, इंडिया ऐसा हो रहा है, इंडिया बहुत अच्छा है, कनाडा में ये है, कनाडा में वो है. But those guys are never able to take the decision because they're too caught in analyzing or too stuck up in analyzing how their life would look like in India once they go, but they never end up a lot more in the last 2-3 years because of the schooling system and the education system and the rent prices, real estate prices, that the economy is going to shambles.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Desi Return. Today, I'm excited to have Mr. Laksh on our show. Laksh went to Canada when he was 13 and he was there close to 15 years before moving back to India. He moved to India early this year and this one is special because he went to Canada when he was very young. I'm really looking forward to the discussion, especially how his education was, what made him to move back to India, and much more. So with that, welcome Laksh to the show.
Thank you, Avi. Thanks, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Looking forward to our chat, Avi.
Great. So Laksh, let's start a bit about your background and what made you to move to Canada.
Sure. Bit of a unique story here, but I moved to Canada. Well, we went to Canada first time in 2008. My dad was the primary applicant for PR. And when we went, we were only there for a month. We have a family business back home. And yeah, I don't think my dad really saw any sort of potential at that time. Maybe it did in real estate, but business-wise, the economy was not doing it much. I guess much better than India anyway. So we decided to come back. And 2010, when I just finished grade 8 in India. I don't know what happened. I asked my dad, I want to go back to Canada. In 2010, I went back to Canada. My parents, my family, my brothers, sisters, everybody. So we're about 12 people in our family. They're back home in India, and I was there alone with my aunt. So my dad's sister, she's the only family I had in Canada. And yeah, and from there on, it was just my high school there, grade 10, 11, 12. And then I went to university in Canada as well.
Got it. So what interested you to go to Canada? You just want to explore, you want to be in a different place than, with the family, just curious. Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't remember that far back, but what I can recall or recollect is I just one fine evening, I went to my dad, I want to go to Canada. I think there would have something happen at my tuition center or in the school, and I just said, yeah, I want to go back to Canada. And the next day, my dad's like, okay, you're going. So I mean, I don't know what happened, how the decisions were taken on the back end, but front end, what I can remember is me telling my dad I want to go, and the next day he was like, okay, you're going. So once I heard that I'm going, it was a very there was a fear in me. I mean, I'd never traveled alone. I hadn't done anything alone, and I was 13 years old. So that was my first flight alone, and it was a connecting flight. I vividly remember it was I was very scared. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go, and I was just following the people in the flight who were connecting to Canada. And yeah, it was an experience for sure, a good one, and you can call it a fearful one as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I'm curious about the transition from a school perspective, right? So you were studying till ninth grade and joining in a different country, different place. At 10th grade, how was the transition? Any insightful, you know, thoughts, insights, anything that you can share to us?
Definitely. So my experience particularly was a challenging one. I had a hard time making groups of friends, getting into the groups of friends. As I mentioned, friend groups are made either in the middle schools and they transition together in grade 9 to high school, or grade 9 is the founding block of friend groups where, you go to classes together, you have certain periods together and all that stuff. So I was an outsider in the true sense, where I was coming from a different country, and I was in grade 10, people already had groups of friends. So getting into those circles, getting into those groups was a challenging part, definitely. And what I can share from my experience is, if you're anywhere in the world, you shouldn't shy away from going and talking to people, because those people were genuinely very nice, and they were very inviting. I think it was the shyness in me, or the fear in me, to fear of being rejected, that I didn't even approach those groups, right? So anywhere, for kids who are watching your show or parents who are watching your show, um, I think all we got to teach our kids is just going out and asking for what you want, and you'll eventually get it, right? Once I started doing this, once I started approaching people, groups of people, they were very inviting. They started making friends with me. They were studying with me. They were solving problems with me. So eventually, all that I overcame all that. But in the beginning phase was really challenging, in the sense that you have a language barrier. You can't talk properly. You can speak English, but you're not onto their level where they think that you're one of them, right? Uh, Once I joined ESL, I made friends with different people from all over the world. So Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and Middle East. So all these people were coming together in one particular period, one particular class, ESL. So that was like my safe haven, safe zone, where I could be myself, and generally started making a lot of friends. Actually, one of my bestest friends, even till date, he's like a guide, a mentor. He was a senior to me, but I actually met him through ESL. So it was a blessing in disguise for sure.
Okay. Nice. So after the schooling, like how did you choose about the college and maybe the career after that? So any other insights that you can share your journey in Canada? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So grade 12, we were supposed to pick our universities. Had to apply to universities and all that. So um, the I'm going to share the drawbacks or the challenges first. Not even challenges, the bad thing that I did, which people can learn from me, is I only applied to like two or three schools,
Okay.
top maybe one or two schools, and I got in. That's a different part. But I feel like having options in life can really change the course of your trajectory in life, right? My average in grade 12 was really, really high. I mean, I had a 99.8 top six average. So I could have gotten into any business school in Canada or the US. What actually happened was I didn't even apply to these schools. I just applied to three schools and I got into all of them. And the school I chose, University of Waterloo, I chose that because of co-op options, internship options, and majorly because one of my friends, who's also my mentor from high school, he was doing the same program that I wanted to go into. So I mean, like, this is it. I'm just gonna go do this. It was a very challenging program. I mean, I did a double degree in math and business. So I have a BBA and B math with a computer science minor. Very challenging program, in the sense that my friend who was my mentor, he said, "Don't come here. You're gonna hate your life. Don't do this." And at that point, I was like, "Well, if you can do it, I can do it too. So don't challenge me." So I just went for it.
Yeah.
So I had a tough time in university, but I had a great time in university as well. All my social life, all my personality development, all my personal development, everything happened through Waterloo. Like, I mean, everything that I have, even in the financial sense, physical sense, mental, spiritual, all that happened because of my university and the city that I was in.
Mhm. Very interesting. Yeah. Anything that you can share, because that's a big statement, like, everything. Is it the friends? Is it the curriculum, or is it just curious? Like, is there anything that you can pinpoint? And just because that's a big statement that you made there. So just
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
curious.
definitely. So I think whatever happened, well, my mom always says, and I started to believe her as well, that whatever happens, happens for a good reason. And I think the reason for me to go to Waterloo was my self-development and personal development and getting in front of people who are the cream across Canada. I mean, I was the top 1% in my high school. And when we went to Waterloo, everybody was a top 1% from their high schools, right? So that is a mental challenge as well. Like, I mean, if you score, let's say 50% in one of your assignments or one of your midterms, you feel discouraged because you're used to scoring 100%, 99%. And what Waterloo taught me was mental toughness. And Waterloo has a slogan of the teams are called Waterloo Warriors,
Yeah.
and their slogan is "Tough times don't last, but warriors do," right? And that taught me how to be resilient, how to be consistent. Although I was not consistent the first part of the journey in university, I was partying a lot and I was doing everything that is humanly possible. But all to say, I the first 2 years developed me as a person because once I got bad grades, I stopped going to classes. I just, I started deferring exams. It was a very challenging time for me. I started seeing a mental counselor as well. I started seeking therapy, and so that particular phase of my life, I call it the development part. That's the part where I met my best friend in life. And it's been what, 12, 13 years that we've been together. We act as trusted advisors. We soundboard each other. We hear each other out. And, you know, those 2 years gave me all that.
Yeah.
And after the 2 years, I was going to the gym and everything, no classes whatsoever, deferring exams, nothing, like no education at all, just social. Like I was very social. You could go to Waterloo and ask anybody who Laksh is, they would point you to my dorm room, right? I was that social. And after the 2 years, I started realizing that I maybe, putting my eggs all in one basket and not necessarily doing justice to my family's money and resources and their trust. So my dad, my mom, my dad's elder brother, my uncle, and my brothers, they all trusted me with something that I am doing outside India, but they don't know what I'm doing. So that was a sense of responsibility that came into me by itself. And that's when I started focusing on balancing my life in a way of social, physical, mental, spiritual, and education as well. That was a big component. So when I say that statement, the big statement, I think Waterloo as a city and Canada as a whole has given me a lot. Even from the financial perspective, we bought our first property in Waterloo as a student rental, and my whole well, not mine, my dad's whole idea was, you live in one of the rooms and rent out the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was shocked by how much money I was making at that time. Like I thought I could just get peanuts and that would be my snack money or my liquor money or beer money, but it was actually consistent to a point where I could pay a tuition fee from it. I could pay my meal plans from it. I could buy alcohol from it. I could do anything from it. That money really allowed me to be free in university and actually focus on what actually mattered, not the money part, not the stress from the money.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of people, a lot of my own friends from coming from third world countries and really slog their time with part-time jobs, 2 or 3 part-time jobs along with university, and I was fortunate enough not to be doing that. So I thank Waterloo as a whole for my development.
Great. So how did it go after the education, like after schooling, like you worked there, and how was the life of the
Yeah.
professional journey?
Interesting that you asked. My program had originally had 5 internship blocks. So each internship block is 4 months, and that's actually counted as full-time experience when you actually go out in the job world, right? So my experience was 4, which was the given ones, and then I did 3 more, right, from my own side. So I had 7 internship or co-op terms with big banks like RBC. I had a pension plan. I was on the buy side, private equity. I did a real estate private equity internship as well. Technology consulting. I worked with CGI as a tech consultant, capital markets and global banking systems. So that was a great experience for me, I think, in the sense that if you go out in the real world and you apply for jobs, people look at you differently. And that's sort of the norm in US and Canada as well. People tend to look at you differently and they treat you differently because you have a sort of set of skills and experience that you are bringing to the table. That allowed me to open doors in places that would have never been open for me, either in business side, my personal business, or the job front when I went for a full-time job.
Yeah, definitely. So have you worked there, or like you just went into business, or what made you to move back to India? Just I think maybe what's the thought process and what?
Yeah. So I did work there for about 3 years as a full-time job. My first job was at a technology startup in Montreal. So I was in Montreal after schooling, after university, and that was the time I got my first job at a tech startup in Montreal. Stayed there for about 6 months,
Okay.
and I secured a gig then with the federal government. Federal government, I was doing business development for financial solutions. The arm that which I was working with, it's called Export Development Canada, and we used to finance exporters out of Canada. So anything trade related, we used to finance, be it be mergers and acquisitions, be it be your insurance for trade for your product. If you're an exporter and you want your insurance for your product, we used to do that. So those solutions as well, and finance revolving RCFs, revolving lines of credits, and all that. So I was on the front end and the back end bridge between the business side and the back office.
Yeah.
Well, if you asked a question about business, my first business actually was while I was in university. I started a fashion clothing brand called Urban Desi Toronto, and the whole point of that brand was, taking my family business, which is ethnic Indian menswear, into a streetwear modern style for unisex clothing. It wasn't just men. It was long T-shirts made out of kurta fabrics with a streetwear twist. So we attended a lot of streetwear conferences. We had a lot of trade shows within the university and outside. And I actually ended up selling that business to one of the Indian retailers, which the name I can't disclose.
Okay. No.
Yeah, that was my first business, and eventually I just got into real estate. My passion, my background. I mean, buildings always interested me. Tenant solving problems always interested me. I love taking on complex problems, which I can't even solve sometimes, so it becomes a nightmare. So then I have to ask for external help. But real estate sort of is my vehicle for financial independence, financial freedom, and it has allowed me to be in one of the top 1% in Canada.
Got it. Cool. So everything is great in Canada, right? I mean, you have the financial flexibility, and you have great group of friends. Everything is going great. So why the plan to move back to India?
Yeah. Major reason was family. We recently welcomed our baby boy into the world, and I started longing that affection. I started longing that love, which you could get only from family, not nobody else. And yes, you do have your assets back in Canada and all that, but even if you're making a ton of money, who's there to enjoy it with you, right? To give you a perspective, in the last 15 years, I've only met my parents 15 times, and that's only for like 15 to 20 days, maybe 30 days max. And you know, that really was an emotional trigger for me. Once my son was here in my hands, I was triggered to a point where nothing else mattered to me. I mean, no, yes, you do have clean roads and clean environment in Canada, less traffic and all that. Everything is beautiful, but I think for me, family, love, affection, and that bond is more beautiful than just roads and clear skies.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
was there any planning that you have done, once the decision was made, like, after your son was born, like when did you decide to actually move and what was the planning that went behind it?
So Avi, my plan was to not be fixated in one country, right? Like I'm still, me and my wife, we're still open to different countries. My dad's very open-minded. My family's very open-minded for business. You could relocate anywhere in the world, but in terms of the planning, there was no planning done. I just heard the facts. I checked the facts. I found out what was happening in India. I found out what was going on in India in terms of the economy, in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the services and the lifestyle that NRIs can afford. And after that, it was just sold my car off. I had a sports car. I loved it. It was a decision that came after discussing with my wife as well, because her opinion is very important to me as well. But she was on board. She didn't deny once. She knew what I was talking about. She trusted in me, and I think that's been the biggest proponent for me to come back, because my family trusted in me, my wife trusted in me, and most of all, I trusted India's economy for my growth and my business growth and my family's growth over the North American side. I mean, all that side is great. I'm not really putting it down, but I think the next 25, 30 years is India's time to shine, and we can come out on top if we can get good talent, educated talent in these industries which are lacking people, lacking the workforce of educated people.
Great. So I'm assuming that you kind of transitioned into business and not anymore in a career in India, and that's what you're trying to expand. Is that right?
Right. So not entirely. I took a bit of a unique journey as well. So before coming here, for the last month and a half, 2 months, I was reaching out to people. I was not interviewing, but just understanding how the real estate market works here, because that's what I've done. I know how to do that the best. And I reached out to a lot of brokerage owners, like who have their companies of 200 people, 100 people, that side of spectrum, and understood what the real estate looked like in India and how I could be a part of this whole big bubble of, not even bubble, this
The
whole
ecosystem. Yeah.
the whole ecosystem of real estate in India. And fortunate enough, one of my old friends from school has been in this game for the last 20 years. And he guided me. He got me a gig with two guys who run their own company. And it went really well. For the last 2.5 months, I was working with them as a business partner on a revenue sharing basis. So not entirely a job, but it kind of gets you into the flow of things, gets you into a routine of going to the office and going out, meeting developers, meeting investors, meeting clients, and getting to the whole business sort of gig.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. So how is the life in India now that I think you've been living here? So been away for more than 15 years, especially like most of your adulthood was and abroad. So how
Yeah.
does it feel and how is it going?
You definitely miss the luxuries of Canada. Definitely, I miss the clean roads and the less traffic and driving on the highway for about 120 an hour or 140 an hour. But all that fades away when you sort of look into your daily home life, your family life. When I see my son playing with 12 different people within the household, I think that all that stress of making this decision fades away. Um, in Canada, if we were in Canada at this point, it would have been me and my wife just doing everything possible to get him to socialize with other people, taking him out to play dates and night stays and whatnot.
Yeah.
No, you can do all that in India as well. There's no stopping. People are now aware of the culture outside abroad. So they're doing slumber parties, they're doing the night stays, they're doing the play dates and all. But this part of having family around, which is my ethos, would have been absent in Canada,
Got it.
right?
So maybe one perspective that I would be curious, especially for someone who did a professional education on a business, maths, and the comment that you made in terms of, the India has its opportunity to shine in the next 20 to 25 years, right? I mean, you spent your adulthood, you saw, I think, how North America works. You have heard some facts or you have seen something in India. So anything that kind of uh, solidify your thought about, yes, India has its opportunity, like, what are the differences that you see now that you're spending time here in India? Anything that you can share just to help people, hey, things have changed, or for a better or for good, or things still have to evolve? Just curious on that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think when I made that comment about India's time to shine for the next 30 years, predominantly I was referring to where things are going infra-wise and services-wise, and the whole environment of, when you talk about quality of life, you talk about healthcare, you talk about restaurants, you talk about infrastructure, you talk about traffic, you talk about your daily operational life. And I feel like if you know some hacks to bypass the problematic areas, your life in India can be absolutely amazing. By what I mean by that is, let's take a small example of traffic. I go to Gurgaon every day for my business, and the traffic hours are usually from 7 to 9 in the morning and 6 to 9 in the evening. So if you can somehow figure out a time to bypass those traffic hours, the infrastructure they have developed, like Dwarka Expressway, it's a 16-lane highway which connects Delhi to Gurgaon from a different angle altogether. Fantastic. Like when I say fantastic, I've never seen anything like that. No, not 401, no 410, no 407 can compare to these new expressways that they're making.
Yeah.
In terms of your life in India, I would say um, you just have to figure out ways to make your life easier. If you want to find out reasons how you hate your life in India, you will hate your life in India, that's for sure. But if you actually actively look for ways to make your life better in India, let's say, for example, getting house help or getting chores done or getting services delivered to your doorstep or anything, let's say, for example, if I'm if I'm looking at getting medicines delivered at like 2 a.m., I blink it or Zepto it and it just comes in like 3 minutes, right? Whereas in Canada, I would have to go to Shoppers Drug Mart or Walmart or something, and actually have to physically be present there to take my medicine, come back home. So that cycle of steps, the time frame is reduced in India, and I feel that's a very big thing. If you are a business owner, if you are actually looking to make your life easier, um, let's talk about grass mowing and snow cleanup. Although people nowadays are getting much more aware about their time and the hours that these things take, they do hire external help in Canada as well. but at what price? You just have to look at the price tag as well. Like I used to pay my cleaning lady $50 an hour, and she used to come, 2 times a week, and that was a hefty price tag. But here in India, I think I could afford all that luxury at a minimal cost, make my life easier, and also focus on things that actually matter, like spending time with family, going out to do business, or traveling. I think from India, there's a lot of different avenues that you can explore, but at a very minimal price tag, which is a big thing for me and my wife as well.
Yeah, for sure. So, Laksh, I think thanks a lot for all the information. Is there any topic that we haven't covered that you would like to bring up?
I think we could talk about the financial side of things.
Sure.
Because that's a big reason why, or the lack of clarity, that's a big reason which people are not sure about. They want to take this step, but they're not able to because there's a lot of fog around what will happen when I go there, and how far will my money go and all that. So I think we could talk about that, and real estate in general. We could talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think that would be very helpful. So maybe on a like a financial side, anything that you can share from a planning, you have mentioned that you have a lot of assets. That's one aspect, in managing that. And also the cost of living, like how far the dollar can go, any insights, is there anything that you can share from a, not like a corpus fund, just some kind of like a safety net that they need, before making a decision. Anything that you wanted to share, I think that would be fantastic.
Sure. As a rule of thumb, I would say if you are a single person, if you are saving 1 to 1.5 lakhs a month, um, in India, I think you not saving, or you're making, or you're having from a steady flow of stream of income, 1.5 lakhs a month can go really, really far in tier 2 city. In a city like Delhi or in Mumbai, maybe you can increase that to 2.5 lakhs for the luxuries that we're used to having in North America. That's for a single person, I would say. But this is just my opinion. I think a lot of people can be okay with just 50 to 75,000. I've heard stories. A couple 1 lakh rupees a month. They were really happy. They're renting a place. They're really happy traveling India and all that. Great, good for them. For me, I'm a young guy. I want to enjoy my life. I want to go out. I want to take my wife, show my wife places, show my son places. I actually want my family to come out with me as well, and I want to be able to pay for them. So for me, that number looked a little bit on the higher side. So yeah, I think that's, if you want to talk about my number was 3 to 4 lakhs a month. I haven't hit that number yet, but I'm in the process of hitting that number and achieving that goal. Eventually that would happen. And I think that's my number of being a little comfortable, taking one step back and just, smelling the roses along the way.
Yeah. I mean, if I may add, I think there are a couple of big buckets that, which cost more in India. The first one is the house. And especially if you have kids, the kids' education, depending on the curriculum, depending on the school, that could be another big expense. So I think once you have those two major things kind of taken care, there is a little bit more flexibility. You have like a wide range of services available, the options, the cost of living can vary from a person to person. But if I might have to put, I think those are the two big buckets, where these monthly expenses would go in. Yeah.
Definitely. And Avi, I would like to mention that when people say that India is cheap, it's not. Like, I mean, if you go to a good restaurant or a good hotel, it's not cheap at all. It's actually more expensive than North America. But the services that you get and the grandeur that you experience, it's a sight to have, right? Like the 5-star hotels in India that we have, hospitality-wise. I used to go to JW Marriott or Hilton or Radisson in Canada. It's not the same. And if you go to the hotels near the airport in Delhi, you enter Marriott and you're welcomed by this huge structure, huge lobby. You just feel that you're in a 5-star hotel. But in Canada or in the US, it's very corporate-like, very business-like, very monotonous. So when people say that India is cheap, it's not really cheap. It depends on where you're going and where your money is going. So if you want to stretch your dollar, I would say try to experience boutique things, in tier two cities, travel and stay at boutique Airbnbs. Those are very affordable, mid-ranged, and a normal family can really have a good time if they plan. I'm not much of a planner. I just like to think things and do it and then figure things out along the way. But people who have planning in place, they can really, really stretch their dollar in the sense that, they can experience all the luxury and still save and live a good life in India.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. So I know, let's talk about on the real estate side, right? I mean, I think you've been on the real estate side in North America. You are exploring options or opportunities here in India. So anything that you can compare and contrast? I know inflation has changed quite a lot since COVID. Everywhere around the world, the prices are completely different. So anything that you can share on the real estate aspect between the two countries?
Sure, sure. So when you compared, let's talk about the new development side first, and then we'll talk about the resale market. But when you talk about the new development side, especially in Delhi NCR, I've seen an epitome of luxury being delivered. I'm not used to seeing, at least in condos, sizes of 4,300 square feet, 4,500 square feet, 3,900 square feet. Those are really, really big spaces for a 2 or 3 bedroom house or apartment. In Canada, in downtown, the max I've seen is like maybe 15, 1,600 max. To 1 bedroom in Toronto downtown could range anywhere from, I would say, 500 to 650, right? Which is like what, 3 crores in India, I would say, 3.5 crores. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's say 500,000, so 3.5 crores in India. And now, if you talk about the new launches in India that are happening in 3.75, 3.6 crores, you're getting massive layout sizes of 2,900, 3,200, 3,300 square feet, which are in a gated community, developed builder, reputed, credible builders who are known for delivering excellence, like Godrej Properties, DLF, M3M, Signature Global, all the listed, Shobha International, all the listed players. They're delivered quality, and you'll be surprised to hear a lot of NRIs are fueling this economy. I mean, at least in Delhi NCR, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, from my research at least, 27% of one particular builder's business comes from NRIs, and that's just one builder, right? I haven't even scratched the surface on the whole Gurgaon and Noida market. So there's definitely a lot of potential for appreciation in terms of where the infra is going. I haven't seen so many cranes go up. I think I was reading a stat just yesterday in Gurgaon market right now. Currently, as we speak, there's about 85,000 cranes just doing their job. In Toronto, it's a small piece of cities. Toronto is like, it's great, it's an amazing city. I love Toronto, that's my home. But it's a small city, and you can't expect that level of infra from them which you can expect in India. And even in Bangalore, like I was reading up on Electric City, I think there's a new development happening, and Bangalore is a big boom of NRIs fueling the real estate economy, and Pune as well. So I am very bullish on the Indian real estate for the next 15 years, because they're expecting the market size to touch 1 trillion in the next couple of years, which is huge.
Yep. And then I think you mentioned about some resale, right? Like anything that you want to comment on that?
Yeah. Resale transactions. So in the new launch side, the transactions are very easy. Easy in the sense that if you have a good advisor, if somebody's guiding you through the process, your transaction as an NRI is very seamless. You don't even have to be physically present. Everything's through DocuSign or eDoc or whatever they want to use. And They just want your KYC, so soft copies or digital copies of your government IDs, and that's it, done, right? But the problem arises in the resale side, where either an NRI who doesn't live in India, they want to sell their property, ancestral property, or want to buy a resale property, which I strongly advise them against. I don't advise my clients, NRI clients, to buy a resale property. I mean, selling a resale property is inevitable if they want to just sell it. We can't really stop them. But buying a resale property is just basically shooting yourself in the foot, because the compliance issues and paper trail that are involved, it's very challenging. And if you don't have a right advisor, you can really get lost in the sea of complexities.
Sure. Okay. No,
Yeah.
thanks a lot for that insights and information. So lastly, I mean, any advice that you would give for families or people who are considering to move back to India?
That's a tough one because see, I have a young family. I'm a young guy. My wife is, I'm 29. My wife is the same age as me, and we're young people. We're willing to take risks, and we're willing to see how it turns out. And that's what we did. This was a very calculated risk because we're coming back to family, coming back home. We had the resources already here. We had the family backup already here. But most people don't. And for those people, I would like to say that don't just jump into it. Um, some planning is definitely needed, but jumping into it and taking action is inevitable. If you don't do that, if you just keep over analyzing it, you would never be able to take that decision. I've seen so many people, at least even in my own family in Canada, that they always say that conversation around the table, always, every time we met, यार इंडिया जाना चाहिए, we want to go to India, हमें इंडिया जाना चाहिए, इंडिया में ये हो रहा है, इंडिया में वो हो रहा है, इंडिया ऐसा हो रहा है, इंडिया बहुत अच्छा है, कनाडा में ये है, कनाडा में वो है. But those guys are never able to take the decision because they're too caught in analyzing, or too stuck up in analyzing how their life would look like in India once they go, but they never end up experiencing it.
Yeah.
So analysis paralysis is a big, big challenge that NRIs face, and rightly so, because if you're spent, basically all your adulthood and childhood in one particular spot, moving is really hard. I mean, when I moved cities, that was hard. When I moved countries, that was hard. So this is the fourth time I've moved countries and cities combined.
Yeah.
First when I was 13, then I was 18 when I got my first job, and then I'm 29. I've moved again, and Lord knows where I'll be in the next 10 years. We are flexible where the opportunity goes. So main thing is you have to evaluate the opportunity with the right lens. I was talking to a lot of people. I was doing my research. It wasn't that I just jumped into it and just came back to India. I was talking to my dad. My dad is the most trusted advisor I have in my life, and I blindly trust him with the decisions that he tells me to make. And I think this decision was the right move. So don't overanalyze it. Just go with the flow and figure things out as they come, because tweaking things along the way can go really far.
No, I think it's very true. I mean, there's a lot of discussions about moving back to India, but taking an action takes a bold step. I mean, analysis paralysis is one. The other one is people are not comfortable coming out of their comfort zone, just making a decision and act on it, right? So as you said rightly, you have to take a calculated risk, but analyze it and make an action. If not, either stay or move. I mean, nothing is right or wrong. It's just like what works for you in your situation, but make a decision. Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I feel like the drive to move back from Canada, not so much from the US, but from Canada, is a lot more in the last 2-3 years because of the schooling system and the education system and the rent prices, real estate prices, that the economy is going to shambles. If I want to share an example with you, if you don't mind, with your audience,
Sure.
and see if that resonates with them or not. When I was in Canada, I was a part of this group called Indians in Toronto, and I saw a post one day that a small kid, a boy of maybe 6 or 7, comes back home. His dad is a banker from India, commercial banker. Mom is a commercial banker as well. Goes to pick this. The dad goes to pick up the son from school, and while on their way back, the son says, "Dad, I feel like I am a girl in the boy's body," and 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 the dad is just shocked, like they don't know what's going on and why the son is saying these things. And the son says again, I feel like I should be wearing a frock, not jeans or trousers. And these statements, when as a parent, when you hear that, you are actually, left with no option but go to the advisors in the school and talk about it.
Yeah.
So the dad goes and talks about it in the high school system, and the high school says, rebuttals back, if you cannot accept our culture, move back to your country. And that was an eye opener for me, because I just had welcomed my son in the world, and um, there's a big movement around the LGBTQ issues. We are very acceptive of the fact of this community. We respect it. We do all that's humanly possible to make them feel as a whole, as a society. But when it comes to an adolescent, like a young boy, and saying these things, and you're brainwashing, I call it brainwashing. When you're brainwashing children into thinking that, your gender is not male or female, there's like 5 different options in front of them, they're actually confused. We're raising a generation of confused people, and I didn't want that for my family.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. Again, certain things are very important, and you just make what's important and then make the right decision. As you rightly said, in the last 2 years, the push factors are much more higher, with the healthcare inflation, with so many other things that are going on. It's not the same as what it was before. Yeah.
True. So talking about healthcare, sorry, just one more thing. Talking about healthcare, we just recently went through the pregnancy, and during the pregnancy, my wife had some sort of allergy on her skin. So we wanted to find out what it is so it doesn't increase. And when we went to the doctor, we called in, they said, you have to take an appointment with the dermatologist. And so we called the dermatologist. First, you have to get a referral from your family doctor to the dermatologist, and then the dermatologist office calls you back. So we got a call back. I'm talking about June 2023. June 2023, we give them a call about the allergy. They call us back, and they said the first available appointment is June 2024.
Wow.
That's one instance. Second instance, my uncle at some point used to own a restaurant, and his head chef, while chopping veggies or chicken, whatever, cut his finger, like to a point that he held his finger in his hand. So would you call this an emergency or not?
Emergency for sure.
Sure. Okay. So they go to the they go to the hospital in the emerge section, and they waited about 3 hours before the guy could be let in with a finger in his hand. The finger, I mean, I don't know what happened with the finger. I mean, I don't even think it can be held that long. So I don't know what they did with it. Maybe they iced it, nitrogen it. I don't know. But it goes to show to a point where the public healthcare system is so overhyped that we give it so much value that we lose sight of the drawbacks that it has, the timelines, and genuine cases of emergency. I've seen people come back, my own family members, my aunt, come back to India, get operated, and then go back to Canada because it's just generally so bad.
Yeah. So we had a guest on one of the episode who said that I think the same thing, like Indians in Toronto, like the IIT group or something, whenever people say like, hey, we have this issue, people all comment back, go to India, fix it, and then come back, because just the waiting times are huge or whatnot. So it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much, Laksh, for your sharing your journey on our show. A lot of insights about your education, professional background in Canada and what made you to move to India, comparing about, on the financial aspect, the real estate, and giving some insights about the healthcare, the education system and so on. So really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your journey with us today.
Thank you so much, Avi, for having me. I hope your audience finds some value in my journey, because this is not scripted. This is just my own personal experience, which I'm sharing the first time on a podcast. So I hope people enjoy this.
Yeah, will do. Thanks a lot.
All right, Avi.